So, as I'm getting more comfortable to start with the first part of Astrology 101, the zodiac signs, I hope you're getting comfortable too with a sip of water, some background music like solfeggio frequencies, and a snack. I do feel more comfortable reading from my screen because I don't want to make too many mistakes. And as I'm doing that, I will be sharing some screenshots which are available on Instagram and YouTube. Some aren't yet, but everything in its time. So let's dive right into it. A birth chart is usually shown in circle, which is read against the clock, starting at the 9 o'clock point. The chart is divided into 12 main parts of 30 degrees, where the first 30 degrees are traveled in Aries. We shift 30 degrees per sign until we reach a total of 360 degrees. The astrological year starts in the middle of March in Aries, when the sun reaches the first degree. If we connect astrology to nature, we can see Aries as the beginning of springtime with their active, enthusiastic passion to grow, just like the flowers are coming out of the ground and in bloom. With this kind of energy, we give a zodiac sign a masculine duality, which means they are direct, energetic, and strong through action. 30 degrees later, we arrive in the season of the Taurus. Even though the Taurus is a male animal, the zodiac sign possesses a feminine duality, meaning the energies of a Taurus are receptive and magnetic. They are self-orientated and strong through inner reserves. The Taurus is a practical earth sign in the middle of spring. They are stable, driven, and patient, just like the returning leaves on the trees that patiently multiply. Next, we shift another 30 degrees and arrive at the last sign of spring, the mutable Gemini. Gemini is an air sign, which makes them easygoing, adaptable, and communicative. At the end of the season, you can notice the air getting warmer and people enjoying superficial and social contacts more. Just like the fire sign, air signs have a masculine duality and are strong through their outer directed energies. This duality comes back every other sign. After 90 degrees, we arrive at the end of spring, and the Cancer is there to announce the summer. The sign at the beginning of a season has a cardinal quality, which means they are enterprising and extrovert initiators. The Cancer starts emotional bonds and feelings because of the water element that they possess. At the beginning of summer, we tend to start deeper going relationships about, let's say, memories we remember or cherish. A sign in the middle of a season has a fixed quality. Like that, we can see that Leo has a charismatic persona that can leave a lasting impression. They can also be stubborn and domineering because of their fixed quality, which makes them resistant to change where they would rather keep perfectioning instead of starting something new. This quality binds the Leo with Taurus, Scorpio, and Aquarius in an aspect we call a square or opposition in astrology. At the end of a season, there is a sign with a mutable quality, which announces the end and the start of a season. Mutable signs like Virgo are flexible, versatile, and adjustable. They have the ability to adjust to circumstances. The Virgo is again a practical earth sign and is a distributor of skills. At their best, they can be humble and orderly, but depending on other aspects, they can also be obsessive and critical. A Gregorian calendar is a Roman calendar that starts in January and ends in December on 365 days. An astrological calendar starts in March and ends in February in 360 days. So we are a half year further and arrive at the fall equinox that is announced by the cardinal air sign of Libra. Everything that happens in the first half of the year is seen as inner or personal growth, personal development. Now the focus is being mirrored where Aries represents the house of the self and the body, and Libra in 180 degrees opposition represents the house of the personal and business relationships. Both have a cardinal quality where Libra starts personal relationships and Aries just starts head first. If we arrive at the 8th month now, we do not have to call it the house of the Scorpio, depending on your time of birth, but just the 8th house. Because Scorpio is represented in this house at best, it does have a lot of qualities of Scorpio and her ruling planet, Pluto. These are subjects like shared possessions, heritage, and intimacy. This is again in opposition with Taurus, which represents personal possessions and self-worth. Next, we arrive at the last spark of fire in the zodiac belt, Sagittarius. Focused, passionate, and spontaneous, Sagittarius is the sign that closes autumn and announces the cold winter months. At the end of this season, the amount of sun hours has drastically reduced in opposition of the transition from Gemini in spring to Cancer in summer, when the longest day of the year occurs. Sagittarius has a masculine duality, a mutable quality or triplicity, and a fire element or quadruplicity. The winter starts with Capricorn, which represents long-term goals. In winter, a lot of people prepare for the new year to shine and grow. This is a good time to retreat and come up with a strategy to climb to the top. That is why Capricorn has Saturn as its ruling planet. Saturn is seen as a master teacher who shows how and where you are or are not disciplined and or limited. After 28 to 31 years, Saturn returns to the place of birth. This is also called a Saturn return and could help to develop into the adult who has mastered the disciplines you aspire to have as a child. Saturn also deals with knowing your boundaries and working with discipline, which are qualities that suit the fixed Aquarius very well. In 1781, Uranus was discovered, and the influences of the planet, revolution, evolution, technology, inventions, eccentricity, individualism, and stuff, suited the Aquarius much and much better. That is why Saturn is very comfortable in Aquarius, but is no longer its ruler. The fact that Aquarius is a fixed air sign makes them so revolutionary. By grinding deeper and deeper on their own thoughts and ideas, they evolve everyday ideas into new ideologies. Paris Hilton is still a good example of that with her visionary views on technology when she took the first selfie. Eventually, we end at Pisces, the feet of the birth chart. This dreamy and mystical sign practically contains all the knowledge that has been gathered through the year. Depending on aspects and personal evolution, Pisces can be a horrible dream or a wonderful nightmare in living form. Emotional intelligence is a value. Whereas Gemini is the divide between the magnetic and the energetic, Pisces is the divide between the physical and the spiritual. One cannot exist without the other. This quality, in combination with the water element, which contains knowledge, makes Pisces the distributor of intuition, like its ruling planet Neptune, which was discovered in 1846 and acknowledged too. Now we have an overall description of the zodiac belt. We can dive a little bit deeper, yes, deeper into what we just discussed. So I've just discussed the cardinal, fixed, and mutable qualities, and each element, fire, earth, air, and water, has one of these qualities and expresses them in their own way. So let me tell you. We start at Aries with a cardinal fire quality. Fire is primarily active and enthusiastic. Aries represents this in the dominant phrase, I am, by embodying qualities of fire. They have a deep sense of justice and are natural leaders. Depending on the house in which Aries is represented in your chart, you can see where you are courageous and assertive in your doing and being. The next quality is represented by the earth sign of Taurus and is fixed. Taurus represents endurance and persistence, but they can also be very patient. A fixed sign is more of a stabilizer and feels comfortable in the midst of the fruits of their labor. This gives Taurus the dominant phrase, I have. The dominant phrase, I think, is subscribed to Gemini, which is also ruled by the planet of communication and knowledge, Mercury. Gemini are quite cunning, just like the mythological god of commerce, Mercury, because of their mutability in an air sign. This means that they are flexible and intelligent when it comes to communication and knowledge. Their inquisitiveness makes them come across different subjects which they can study with a dualistic perspective. The fourth element is water, which brings us back to the cardinal quality subscribed to Cancer. Water holds emotions, and in the book The Healing Power of Water by Masaru Emoto, we can follow an experiment which shows that water also holds knowledge. This gives Cancer the dominant phrase, I feel. Ruled by the moon, which transits signs every 2.5 days and influences the tides, Cancer, and especially Cancer risings, can come across as moody. Each sign does have their own influence, But the cardinal qualities of water make Cancer easygoing when it comes to starting emotional bonds. With the fixed Leo, we return to the passion of the fire sign. The sun is seen as the core of life, your ego, vitality, expression. This passion is represented in the dominant phrase I create or I will, whilst the sun shines on the inner spirit from the most favorable position. Because Leo is ruled by the sun is always in the most comfortable position to spread its influence. This confidence can come up in some type of way in Leos and people who have a prominent Leo placement in their charts. After collecting the goods, we make up the balance with the dominant phrase I analyze as we arrive at the mutable earth sign of Virgo. Earth is a practical and stable element. In tarot, Earth is associated with the pentacles, which stand for the material. In the end, there are a lot of pseudosciences which come together when studying life. And a Virgo, which is also ruled by Mercury, it has the talent to separate the necessary from the unnecessary and turn it into something digestible to work with in situations like these. They are distributors, spreaders of skills. And thank God for someone who focuses on the insignificant before it becomes significant. Yeah? So where Gemini leans towards wisdom out of the head, Virgo leans towards wisdom out of the heart. In the meantime, the tides have turned as we use what we have gathered outwards. Libra carries the dominant phrase I balance. With its cardinal air element, air stands for the intellectual and communicative, and they are quite group-orientated people, air signs. The Libra like starting new relationships with the knowledge that they have gathered and know that sometimes it's necessary to adjust to fit in, just like the wind blows where there are no obstacles. If you have less favorable placements in Libra, it can be quite an obstacle or challenge to stand behind your words, which in turn can make someone come across as a hypocrite. This can be coped with by being so aware of yourself that it makes you diplomatic and easygoing. For people from my Pluto generation, depending on aspects and housing placements, it can be an obstacle or an ease to feel empowered and healed with Pluto in Scorpio. Because of the fixed quality of the water element which Scorpio possesses, and if there's something that people are unspoken about, which is a taboo, it's emotions, let alone deep, fixed emotions of a Scorpio. They're intense, but the Scorpio is a driven, intense, and dedicated sign which is prepared to sacrifice for the greater good. If you can imagine with how much passion you can stand by your cause, you can imagine that their dominant phrase is I desire. Be careful with what you desire because they aren't always the best for you and can lead to obsession and paranoia. Next, we arrive at the focused, ambitious Sagittarius, which is the last triplicity of the fire signs, because you have a group of three, triplicity, and three fire signs: Aries, cardinal, fire; Fixed fire is the Leo. Mutable fire is the Sagittarius. Back to the screen. They have a mutable quality which can make them restless and tactless in their being. They stand strong in their power and moral, which makes it easy for them to have a goal in mind and reach it with the dominant phrase, I see. Ruled by Jupiter, the planet of growth and luck, Sagittarius comes across as very optimistic, sometimes overly optimistic. This is why they should be careful with how much they eat, for the influence of growth and expansion can also play a dietary role. In contrast to Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, and Venus rules the senses, so also the taste, and the Taurus likes to indulge in taste, fixed sign. This is something I'll talk about in the video about the planets. The cardinal quadruplicity is closed by the earth sign of Capricorn. Capricorn and the 10th house, which they rule over, are associated with the authoritarian lead in your chart. If you are reading your chart, the ruling planet Saturn could represent the father. For a country, for example, Saturn represents the government. These authoritarian influences are recognizable in the discipline and strategy a Capricorn uses to reach their long-term goals with the dominant phrase, I achieve. The Aquarius is a somewhat fascinating sign to me with its fixed air quality that they possess. As bearers of water, they are bringers of knowledge. Their fixation in knowledge and development makes them revolutionary when it comes to technology, ideology, and the future. They carry the dominant phrase, I know. With the sun being furthest from home, home in Leo, at furthest in Aquarius, Aquarius sometimes carry an aura of being homesick or something, but they can be very emotionally detached and very distant, even though they're very altruistic and friendly in nature. Pisces, lastly, carries all the wisdom, passion, logic, and emotions with its mutable water quality. They are highly intuitive, creative, and romantic. Sometimes you can even experience this as mystical. This is because of their strong connection with the spiritual and the material, which is represented by their glyph. Limits blur and the surreal becomes tangible, which can also bluntly be expressed as self-defeating behavior by numbing substances, a retreat which temporarily removes you from the reality which you are used to, or a submission to a world of film, music, and theater. This all depends on aspects and placements in your birth chart. Yes. Encounters with people and locations, though, which cross your Pisces placements or other placements, can trigger an aspect in your advantage or disadvantage. As wavy as this all sounds, you can imagine that Pisces has the dominant phrase, I dream, just like their ruling planet. But feminine energy for a Taurus, quadruplicities, and Aquarius, which is actually an air sign instead of a water sign, even though it's the bearer of what. Yeah, these are all some basic facts about astrology, which I hope are a little more clear to you now. Well, not even astrology, just the zodiac belt. But if you'd like to know a little more, or if you would like a copy of what I just read for you, just let me know. And I'll be continuing with part 2, 3, and 4. Thank you for having me and providing this platform. Love you mucho.